All right, here we are. Moosetache. I think this is showing backwards in the video. Nan will have to check that out and see if I can make it show forward. All right, Moosetache. This used to be a favorite of the preschool classroom that your Uncle Mason and Uncle Maddox went to. All right, Moosetache. Here we go. Moose had a horrible problem. A horrible, hairy, prickly problem. It grew right below his nostrils and just above his upper lip. A moosetache. Now, not a few spare hairs or shy little stubble. No mere weak wandering whiskers on the upper lip of this moose. No siree. Moose had a big, bushy, bristly, mighty moustache. But a moustache that was a burly, surly, mangly mess, and it itched a lot. Sure, he plucked and tweezed, he even clipped and snipped and teased, but his combs were still cowards. His brushes rebelled. His scissors simply surrendered. Not sure where I'm supposed to be looking. I'm supposed to be looking at you. Are y'all listening? Come on. Where you at? Moose was in a frizzy tizzy. The moustache was completely crimping his style. He was a great hoofer, but he could barely bop and hip-hop with a moustache going flip-flop. He was a wonderful chef, but he simply could not flambe his souffle with all those whiskers in the way. And he was a daring skier, but how could he downhill race with a mighty moustache blowing in his face? Moose had to do something, and soon. But what? After days and days of much serious thought, Moose got an idea. He crossed some hair here, he crossed some hair there, and he tied his moustache around his neck. A moose scarf seemed to be the ideal answer to his problem. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect. He has a moose scarf. But then his moustache got knotted and mangled and horribly tangled, and those hairs still prickled and tickled. Worse, Moustache could hardly take a breath with all that moustache wrapped around his neck. I do believe we're missing some pages, but we're going to go on. But now what? What? The miserable moose took hold of a hunk of hair and he wrestled it. He roped it, he tethered it, tied it. What a moose tail! And now, that was so simple. That was so easy. That was so not perfectly perfect. Talk about a dizzy do. Moose didn't know whether he was coming or going, backward or forward. He didn't know which end was which. Moose had to bail on the tail. And so he thought and thought and thought some more. But no idea was a worthy winner. Braids were a bother. A moustache sweater? Too sweltering. Poor Moose, his problem was truly terrible, unbearable, downright sad. He felt so alone. He didn't know what else to do. Look at that moustache. Then, call it fate, call it destiny. It was probably dumb luck. But one day, Moose tripped on his moustache and just had no time to duck. Oof! Pardon me, they both said as they bumped. Then they blinked. Then they stared. And their hearts went thumpity-thump. She was a moose with a bouffant so bodacious, outrageous. Well, it was just plain old big. Hair after hair piled higher than high, a sky-scraping dew of glorious curls, a tower of swirling twists and twirls. She was simply splendid, stupendous, absolutely superb. Oh, Moosetache met a Mrs. Moose. Of course, Moose had to ask, why did she do what she did to get such a do? Miss Moose winked and then whispered, just a little glue. So she helped he fearless plunge a hoof into a fat pot of white gooey goop, and carefully, oh so carefully, they glopped and they plopped, they pasted and they pressed, they coaxed and curled every truly unruly wayward whisker. Around and around they tweaked and twirled those horrible hairs until Moose's once mangy mess was now a wondrous winding wave of marvelous moustache. Moose glazed at the mirror and smiled a broad, moosey smile. He was so happy, so glad, so giddy with glee. He looked dashing and handsome, Moose gushed. Is that really me? Side note, don't put glue in your hair. With not a care for one hair, the Moose pair boogied and bopped. And their cooking was hot, 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 hot. So of course it wasn't long after that. Moose and his moustache and his beautiful bride fox-trotted and tangoed and waltzed down the aisle. Good hair days, bad hair days, they vowed to love and to cherish. And with hearts heaped with love and pots filled with goop, they both sighed, I do glue, and never parted again. It was so simple, so easily, so perfectly perfect, and it stuck. Moosetache. Remember, don't put glue in your hair. Nana loves you.